G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 28th of February 2026. The war continues and the suppression continues because the algorithm is hungry for likes and what they call engagement. They don't call it comments anymore, and you can simply put in the comment section for the algorithm, let me know how much YouTube is suppressing. The more comments I get, the more I know YouTube is suppressing. But happy 100! Today we got our 100th and 101st, knock wood, subscriber. So there are still people out there hungry for the truth. Absolutely amazing to see, because I thought people were befuddled, confused, and hypnotized by the mainstream media. But I think they've pushed their luck too far. CBS, of course, is crumbling, although now and again they leak the truth, but every time someone does, they get ousted. They're trying to reformat their image, but it's not working. And of course, they still have a lot of loony lefties. And until that happens, all the mainstream media, you look at Fox. I wouldn't trust Fox outside of Gutfeld and a handful of others. They, of course, a lot of them. It's so much it's not the information they tell you. It's the information they leave out that's so important. I mean, you've got to remember the mainstream media covered, right, almost nothing about the Ukraine war for so long. And remember, they didn't cover the coup. They didn't cover the murders following the coup. They didn't cover Ukraine's suppression of voters or anything like that. There's still. And there are those, I'm not saying Catherine Herridge is the only one, but there are those in the mainstream media, including mostly at CBS and Fox, and even some at ABC, who tried to cover stuff and said the editors wouldn't let them. So when you hear the mainstream media, remember, it's the gatekeepers in the media that is silencing the media. And why more journalists need to be independent of organizations. Because even those who are sponsored, aka those Ukrainians over in Canada, with all their studios and drone footage from Ukraine, they're beholden, right? They don't get that special treatment if they're not telling the narrative that's, they don't read their little scripty, they are, you even see them sitting on the desk reading the script off the piece of paper in front of them. It is confusing to most when you are this awake, but so many people are in a fugue state. They just nod along, get up in the morning, do their routine, go to work, and put on some background noise to dull out the machinery noise of traffic and their wife and kids droning on about their pointless school projects. Yes, I'm sure the island of Madagascar is such a fascinating place, son. But really, look at priorities, which there's none whatsoever in school. The priorities that make you think you're getting an education. I'm so important to learn about other cultures. Why? If I was interested, I'd read a book. You're ramming it down our throats. Your assumptions of diversity are not translating well into real-world practicalities. No, no. When they say diversity of cultures, they mean we hate the current culture. Well, too bad, so sad. You like diversity so much? Go live in India. See how much you loved diversity. Really, it acts. Alright, so there's a little bit of incursions here and there across the northern frontier. Nothing seems to be of consequence. But that doesn't mean they are without purpose. Of course, they are to draw. Oh, wait, we've had some expansion of the buffer zone up here in the north. Might have been some there. But of course, action in Kupiansk has not resulted in the recapture of Kupiansk, which the Ukrainians are pointing to say, look, 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 they're doing the look meme that we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. Look, look, the Ukrainian look meme. That's fallen out of internet favour, I know. Look, look, we're winning. Yeah. Alright. Alright, so we've got a little bit of action here in the north. Nothing of consequence. We've got some action here. But at the end of the day, no. They have not done much. Failed to capitalise. Should have. But fighting continues in some areas, but most, it's a frozen front. There are action. They have no breakthroughs here. The breakthrough is pushing now west, but Slovakia and Turasol have not fallen. Frontier is stalled until Vilnius. Little bits here and there. The rest seems to have, the rail station here seems to be under Russian control. The Russians are swelling and pushing out here, filling in this here slowly, but they have not been able to push into Belinsky or Shevardnadsk or Rodinsky half again. They are pushing on Hulapol. Sorry, not Hulapol. Horishny. They're trying, but nothing of consequence. They've gained a little bit more land here. Not much. They still got the rail station open for business. They still got pushing here with nothing. They've still got a bit of ways to go here, but still pushing. They've taken a bit of this town over time, but again, nothing of consequence has occurred in a while. That's back here at the phony airport, although it's a straight line road, big enough to be an airport for touch and go operations, so it's under fire, but not under control. Lots of places where the Russians are pushing and failing to get a breakthrough. Now, this has happened before. Russia gets, as we get into the warmer months, the fighting is going to intensify, and this has been the slowest. I thought January was slow, but no, it's just as slow in February. Now, for Ukraine, of course, it has not, despite not losing territory, they're still losing the same amount of men, whether Russia advances or not. And that's the deadliest part. Right? And that's the part that really will bring about the end of Ukraine. well, the economic damage. They steal from Russia. Russia gets its deadly revenge. Sorry, but Europe is not in a position to admit they're at war with Russia. They failed. They have said several times they want to destroy the Russian economy, but then the media denies it because it's what they do now. They manipulate the source and flow of information. So you've got to try and capture it where you can and just believe that the media will never tell you the whole story because they themselves often are not 100% on board, but they have to be to keep their job. That's right. So every time they talk about following orders and laughing at you, they're following orders and crying when they get home. So every accusation by the mainstream media is a confession. Now, Russia has struck the Odessa port, damaging warehouses and port equipment. Now, there's supposed to be a truce at the power plant to allow repairs, according to Russia. Right, the Ukrainians agreed to stop firing on the power plant. Now, Russian forces have allegedly taken control of Bilovinkia, according to Russia's RIA Novosti News state news, citing the Ministry of Defense. Ukraine is once again out there trying to get air defenses to replace the American Patriots because they're wasting them, firing the drones. They pop them off like candy. They're told to stop firing at observation drones, but Ukraine will shoot down anything, and it's costing them. Because it's not their money. They don't care. Now, the Swedish military claimed to have intercepted a suspected Russian drone. It was a kid. Some kid launched one of those pissy little camera drones to take pictures. It was nowhere near the French aircraft carrier. The carrier was in port. Right? It was actually 1 kilometre away, but it didn't matter. The Swedish wanted they wanted to show off and fire their shoulder-launched missile and go, hey, we showed those Ruskies. Some mothers do have them. Yeah. The drone was it was absurd that they would fly that close. No, civilian drones. Right. There was an air defense warning, so it wasn't like it wasn't near, but that's what the media reported. Right, that it was electronically. No, it was actually shot down by show off, according to Telegram. They were having a good old laugh, even high-fiving. Now, Croatia and others are still importing Russian oil, though it was halted last month. Now, the latest reason for the pipeline shutdown is claimed that it was halted because of damage, and Ukraine was blaming a Russian drone strike. No, turns out they were diverting power from the pumping stations to air defenses because Russia had hit their generators. While the gas pipeline had power. So the Ukrainians stole power from the pipeline because they could do whatever they want because Europe will walk around. I see nothing. I hear nothing. You are speaking Russian disinformation. Booyah. And they will go on and on and on. Lying through their teeth. Not caring what you can see with your own eyes every time you look at the map. There's no Ukrainian offensive. Ukraine did not claw back land in Zaporozhye. Now, according to Viktor Orban's office, he has requested again that Ukraine grant Hungarian and Slovak inspectors access to repair and restart the pipeline. Zelensky doesn't even return the calls. He ignores them. He goes on trips to France almost every second day, or is in England. Now, Zelensky said he's not been offered nuclear weapons, but he'd accept them with pleasure. Now, the Russian intelligence service has accused Kiev of seeking countries to provide a nuclear bomb. Well, that's not quite. Permission was what Zelensky was seeking. No, they weren't offering us a nuclear bomb, but then they say, well, media shop around. Right. Zelensky has said many times he wants to end the nuclear, the neutrality and nuclear. He wants to end Ukraine's neutrality, which means he has ended the agreement that we protect him in return for no nukes. Right. So we have no legal obligation to Ukraine. They have broken their word. So, fuck them. My one F-bomb. I will try to limit myself. Now, Poland has, of course, wanting to boost security. Well, arming Ukraine does not boost security. And the World Bank estimates Ukraine will need $588 billion for post-war reconstruction. I thought the economic fund had actually said $800 billion, and Ukraine will never be able to repay, right? But apparently they've revised. Okay, so there's a 8.1 4-year loan with a broader 136 billion in supply and support. So 8.1 is probably cash, and the rest is material. Now, why I think it's revised down is that they've taken into account Ukraine's revenue for the next 100 years to revise it down to make it look like they're not spending Ukraine's entire GDP per annum to rebuild. This is the same lies and money printing in the 50s that led to a almost economic collapse in the 60s and 70s, because they literally poured so much money into Europe for such little economic movement results. European economies didn't take off until the 80s, and even then, now we're getting stagnation yet again. There is allegedly a growing energy crisis, but it is parts of, not all of, Ukraine's steelmaker may have to close again. Now this time it's Kryvyi. Now, Kryvyi has been hit recently multiple times. And remember, there are volunteers, Europeans sending their own to help you rebuild Ukraine all the time. They're propping up, trying to rebuild. And Russia is trying to do more damage than is repairable, but of course the Ukrainians are trying to do the same to them. But this story, Freeside meaning, right, Ukraine refuses to speak to Russia, so the peace talks are a no-go again. However, they may change venue. Now, it doesn't say why. but apparently it came from the Russians and was approved by the Americans and is now up to the Ukrainian whether they want to change venue. Now, I don't know why change of venue is required. Mertz is blaming Russia because the emphasis should be placed on defending Ukraine from Moscow's aggression. Too bad, so sad. Right. You had an opportunity to settle this, but no. You wanted economic war, you wanted to strike Russia's oil fields, you wanted to drive up the price of oil to save your own economies. You thought, we'd move to green energy and everybody else would go downhill. We'd watch America crumble. And instead, America thrives and they're crumbling and they're going, our plans aren't working. Because your plans are based on ideology, not on tangible facts. And the tangible facts of the situation is windmills do not lubricate. And lubrication is the primary use of oil, particularly in steel mills, where you're going to use tons of it to keep those rollers rolling. Now, I get it, but the thing is, reducing the usage of oil and changing your oil production, but yeah, the more you make, right, everybody else starts, you go up here and everybody else will either produce a lot more to take more money off you, right? The richer you get, right, the more your expenses go up. That's why people get to 3 billion and they can't get past it, or 6 billion can't get past it, or 200 billion can't get past it, right? Because their assets are only worth what people can pay for them, not what they are really worth, right? If they were, I reckon a lot of things are overvalued, and that's why the economy is in such a shaky ground. They can't sell the shares for what they're worth. They can't sell the gold for what it's worth. And things are starting to normalize, what they call a market correction. The speculators should be outlawed. All right, so Russia has shown off its Su-30 and its Su-70. Now, it was originally thought the Omsk, so Hochnik, was shot down. Hochnik meaning hunter. Right, so stealth hunters, no, hunter. Right. No, it was one was damaged. They deemed it not repairable, but they never said the fate of the other one, and it's back. This time with the Su-30 SM as its escort, not the Su-57. You can see seasoned aircraft. The Russian digital doesn't have the Russian digital, but the standard Russian grey or blue steel. Yeah. So there it is. So they're flying in tandem, primarily being an escort, but one of them is actually a communications and control relay for. There's airspeed probe. There's the little receivers. It's got intelligent detection systems. As you can see, it's got the trailing edge to try and make sure it doesn't generate a vapor trail. There's the engine. There's it in action. So let's go. I don't know why it's flying with wheels down in some pictures, but there you go. So she could drop a, I suppose, precision strike. They love their aerobatics, I tell you. Wouldn't you if you were up there in a jet? Stop showing off. Ground control's just jealous again. Now those leading edge electronics for jamming and detection. Spread it out so that it doesn't look like one big radar dish flying. Yeah, air combat maneuvers do actually count when you're avoiding. Now, there we go. It's a mostly twin-seater, so though they're often flying, as you can tell, without co-pilot. So the one with the co-pilot's directing the hunter. Co-pilot's probably just an electronic warfare officer, or it could be used when the Su-30 is used as a forward observer, right, taking pictures of the battlefield. And there's the look at the pilot tube. There she is in tandem. Do we have anything here of value? Oh yeah, good look at as a good look at a pre-paint job, right? You can tell, panel markings, all the. There she is with her digital paint job, the disruptive pattern. So we've got a lot of maneuvering. It's about 3/4 of the size of a standard aircraft because it doesn't need a pilot. There's it with its little brother, which has been injured and may be out of the fight. But there's the update, folks. New version. That's why we haven't been hearing for it, and they have 3. So, what's that, Ukraine? Yeah. Cry a little harder, will ya? No, this is all sourced from there we go. Technical details that mean nothing, right? Just shows you that it's electronics and packages spread out with an intentional disruptive pattern that will not do a clean radar return, allegedly. There's it with, that's actually 57s, an upgrade version of the 30. That's they call it the shark scheme. They use that in the winter. As you can see, they do actually have a reskin and a repaint job for the standard black from the standard black. There's the standard stealth, probably what you'd say the summer. Yeah, there's the winter. There's a number of disruptive schemes they have for the paint jobs. The digital grey nurse, followed by the there's another one. But 3 in the standard color schemes there. So My guess is different ones ordered for different operational areas, so they have different colour schemes. So at first glance, they know which airbase it was assigned to by its colour scheme. So there you go. It's probably the Siberian or Kandahar. Oh, that's Kandahar. You know the one I mean. The Engels base. But it's not Engels. It's a bigger one north, where you got the bomber base is actually smaller. It's only got 8 white swans there, and north of that they got the fighter base. That's a bigger one, and it's got hundreds of fighters and transports and stuff there. I think let's see what we got. We got a transfer for a new round of talks from Geneva back to the UAE. It was, and admitted to by the Russians, that it was their idea. Washington is supporting it. Ukraine is only quick to voice his support because it was only supported by the Americans. The reason is the lack of neutrality, i.e. Switzerland was listening in and reporting everything to the Europeans. Right? They don't care if the Americans listen in, they care when the Europeans listen in. And because the Europeans start voicing their opposition to the Americans about what the key points are. And that is, as Russia achieves certain goals, they will get sanctions lifted, as resulting in America and Russia investing in mines in Russia, and Europe is saying, no, we want to capture them. I mean, liberate them. Yeah. You know, that's the problem with the world. It's not just a European thing, it's just the Europeans have been more successful at it. Russia right now, though silent, should know that the biggest land thief right now in the world is China, and followed by India in Africa. Alright. So Trump has not elaborated on whether or not he will discuss the pipeline or anything else. But he said he'd love to do it. He'd like to see the war over with, so we know what his carrot and stick is, right? And Russia's acknowledging that carrot and stick, right? So, even though direct talks are not continuing, Russia is still putting out stories as signals to America where they want the story to go for the ending of this war. And obviously ending for this war, and Ukraine has no interest in it because they want, right, the Soviet era pipeline, right? They want the money, right? It's a blackmail, right? This is all Ukraine trying to blackmail Russia, blackmail Europe, to make themselves more important than they really are. And at the end of the day, no one is caring, right? All these Ukrainians who care, and most of these people who watch the videos are glad to see you want to stay informed. But I'm telling you right now, though, all these other big channels, they're all Ukrainians. They're all saying sloppy Ukraine. They're all dyed in the wool blue-head anons who believe every conspiracy theory that, Putin is working with Russia, and Trump is working with Putin and is an agent of Russia. They're absolutely off their heads, right? But this pipeline, it's blackmail, right? That's revenge because Hungary didn't want to spend $8 billion a year on Ukraine. Hungary said that they have already had to have increased patrols, citing potential attacks. So you know Ukraine is the one out there sabotaging everything and then blaming Russia. How do I know this? Because they didn't say, right, Hungarians, right, are on the Ukrainian border, not on the Russian border, right? You saw this in Poland, the arrest of that guy in Poland, right? As soon as it turned out he was Ukrainian, they let him go. The guy who flew a drone over fields taking pictures in Poland was Ukrainian. Taking pictures of the Belarus border was Ukrainian. He was living with a 17-year-old girl. Boom. Silence. She was in the country illegally. They still released her. Ukraine was given $43 billion. This is the interest since 24. 2 years of interest on frozen Russian assets. So these are stocks and bonds frozen by Europe. They're collecting all the revenue from them and giving it to Ukraine. But it's not just European Union. There's Canada, Japan, United Kingdom. Not a good look for the West. However, only $1 billion seems to have been from the United States, and they have not given any new funding. We have seen geopolitical shifts. I mean, Canada is going to the wolves, right? This is the selfish power plays that morons do. Okay, they want a better deal. Or a better deal. No. They don't believe in fairness. Don't think. Any of them believe in fairness or equality. At the end of the day, as soon as the doors are closed, give me more! Right, whether it's Canada, Mexico, Brazil, they always just want more. The richer you get, the more they want off you. Success, it's called the success curse. Europe got successful while Ukraine stagnated in its wallowing in its own self-pity, pimping out its children, engaged in arms deals, selling off its national security, selling off its mines to the highest bidder, and then wondering why the country is a quagmire of poor dirt farmers who have the IQ of a dirt farmer. Right? They're probably pretty good and talk your ear off about soil and yields. But ultimately, within a decade, Ukraine's golden goose is cooked. And within 2 decades, the debt is too big to hide. And in 3 decades, Europe is pooch poo. And the people who did it will be long dead, laughing from beyond the grave that they never suffered the consequences of their actions and died rich. Meanwhile, they don't have grandchildren, so they don't suffer the consequences of their pathetic actions. Right? You would always tell an evil person they won't have kids because they can't stand. Right? Their conscience starts to change and shift. They're not as greedy. They start being protective. They start caring what others think. Except maybe like Mangione, who's a total IQ 68. Yeah, he's too stupid to put to death. Yeah, imagine that, right? What a shock. Anybody shocked by that? He's too stupid to understand the gravity of his actions. He thinks he's justified, but he's a low IQ moron who thinks he's a genius. The Dunning-Kruger effect. He is, however, facing life behind bars without parole. But they're trying for a positive defense. That won't work. He shot him in the back and ran away. He did not pose a threat to Mangione. There was no direct interaction between them. This is the problem with the Robin Hood defense. Okay? You go for Robin Hood defense. There's no threat to you personally. Okay? I think trying to paint someone as greedy, fuck you. Right? You're all fucking greedy. You just won't admit it. Right? Everybody's selfish. Nobody wants to admit it. Right? All these people are, oh, I am so altruistic. Why would God allow animals to slaughter? Because it's the circle of life. Right? You make things difficult. You make life difficult. So it has to do something. It has to fight to live. It has to thrive to live. It has to thrive to survive. Right? This keeps the numbers of predators down. This low reproduction keeps the... so you have the lower the food chain, the higher the reproduction rate. So obviously Africans are lion food, right? That's what you get. You know, I don't care what you think. Right? You tune out, that's on you if you don't want the truth. Okay? You can look it up. Right? African villages. Right? They had lots of babies. Why? Because the lions and other animals would target their children. Because there were no other animals to prey on. The Africans have killed most of the animal life in Africa, except for the dangerous predators. And now they're in a quandary. Right? At least with some countries now, they realise their natural, the natural order needs to be protected. Even Saudi Arabia has come to that conclusion and starting to fence off areas and protect what's left of its wildlife. Most countries came to this conclusion long ago. One of the first national parks, white men, right? Realizing the natural world needed protection. From us, not by us, from us. But there are just so many people, right? And this is the danger in Ukraine, is that they're killing off, right, their natural world, right? They're poisoning their soil, they're poisoning their air, right? They cannot fathom, right, the whole idea that, oh, we can't give up land because it's in our constitution. Well, stop worshipping a fucking piece of paper. All these people who talk about compassion. I think that's enough of that. I don't want to bash your ear off, but I hope I've impressed enough on you that they do not have compassion. They have performance. And they are trying to annoy you so that you will give up, do what you're told, so to shut them up. Because you won't take the other route of shutting them up. And eventually you will. Whether it's you or someone else, eventually the left will start to suffer the consequences of their mouth. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment down below, even if it's just for the algorithm. Actually, a good one is F you instead of sloppy Ukrainian. I want to see some food. Lord Farquhar, Ukraine. Break the algorithm, folks. Let the world know You're sick of Ukraine. And when we can make these videos popular, you shift, right? We've got to shift the over to window. We've got to shift public opinion. Because right now, apathy is being ignored, right? If you're not voting, they don't care. It's when they panic when you are voting. That's why they panicked when you voted for Trump, because they expected you not to vote. And again, midterms, they're expecting you not to vote. They're trying to dishearten you, to dissuade you from voting through the good old tried and true methods of annoying you. So please support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy merch, all my links in the link tree. I really appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.